course, I'm Brick Carpenter on USALA Media. Thanks for joining me. Today I have a really special guest. I've had some really great guests over the course of my years, and I've had some really great people on here, some friends that have a lot of meaning in my life, some people that I have crossed paths with that I probably would never have because of where I am in my world. But the person I have on my show today is somebody I'm really excited about talking to because it's probably the first time I've seen this person in 10 to 11 years. And it was one of the reasons that I am on the path that I'm on. When people say to me, Britt, who are 5 people that you would attribute, the success of your recovery to other than yourself? Of course, this person is one of the top 5. And I'm sitting here today with somebody that I am proud of to call a friend as Mike Urban. Hey, Mike.
Hello.
I was sort of choked up because, it's funny because I don't know if you do know the impact that you've had on just not mine, but tons of people, of course, recovery, but on mine, you were one of the first people in my life to hold me accountable. Because we went to IOP together, and we went to, and I was only going because I was trying to get the judge to be nice to me because I had, ended up in jail. I'm like, oh, maybe I should go out, do this. And, and we did that. And I tell this story in my talks a lot, or when people ask me about things and they're like, what's one thing you remember about somebody who did something for you that you always remember that was a positive? I'm like, this guy in IOP, I said, I told him I relapsed on the bus on the way to IOP. We got there in the middle of IOP, he just blurted out, oh, by the way, Britt relapsed. And I looked at him and I was so pissed at this guy for a while and so angry that he revealed this. But then I realized that he was doing it to hold me accountable and to sort of show me that's what I was there for, to recover, to be a part of this. And so I attribute to that. I don't know if you remember that, but it's always something I'll always remember. And I was first I was like, you're a dick. Why would you do that? I was trusting you. Then I remember you doing it for my own good. And, I never really thanked you for that. So thanks, man.
Yeah, you're welcome.
But anyway, thanks for being here.
Yeah, no, it's good to be here. And I remember IOP. We used to go out and sit down and have lunch after IOP and try to get you to go to a meeting. And
oh my God,
we had a lot of good conversations and discussions. And yeah, I don't remember calling you out, but I have been told I've been a dick.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I remember you calling me out. That's one thing I'll keep in mind. And we did. We had some good food. We had some good meals afterwards, and we did. You actually got me to meetings though. I was really dead set against it. Like I said, well, when I first got there, my mind frame wasn't to really go into recovery. My mind frame was, I ended up in jail because I had overdosed in my car, and I ended up at the roundhouse, and I figured if the judge saw I was doing something to better my life, because I didn't really plan on recovering. I thought I was going to just continue to use drugs, but then I found this, part of life where people were holding me accountable and showing me that things were good. Shit, I would never have spent money on eating out like that. I would have, spent money on going to Kensington and buying a bundle, So meetings, though, that was different. You showed me a lot of different meetings. Still, I have, my qualms with meetings. I don't go that often, ever, at all.
Listen, whatever works, it doesn't matter. You're here today, so who gives a shit how you're here?
Exactly. And that was 2015.
Yeah.
2015. A lot has come a long way, hasn't it?
It's been a very long time.
Holy shit.
I still remember all of those days. Set my foundation as well for sobriety.
Yeah, and so tell me, I know who you are, and I, experienced, tell everybody listening, who was Mike Urban?
You want me to tell you about before I got sober?
Absolutely, man. Because that right there sets the tone for who you are now.
Yeah. So I think, for me and getting into recovery was it was the best thing that ever happened to me, and also the worst thing. I remember, prior to getting sober, I was in the Army. I'm very big in veterans advocacy, and, most of my life I didn't drink or do drugs or anything. I joined the Army, but I always tell people, that was the first sense of stability in my life. My life was very chaotic. I had, my parents were divorced, 3 stepbrothers, a brother. We were all split up. And realistically, we did whatever the fuck we wanted, and what we did mostly was figure out how to get money or the shortcut. And that was it. And I always tell people my first addiction was whatever you had, I wanted. Didn't know what I was going to do with it, but I wanted it, and, again, I really wasn't a big drinker or didn't take drugs, but, I hung around everyone that did.
Right.
And I would always tell people, like, if we were at a party, everyone was drinking or getting high, someone would jump off the second story. I would go to the fourth story. At least, like, they had an excuse. They were fucking drunk. I was just sober, I had to push everything to the extreme. So that's like who I was prior to getting in recovery. I mean, I still am in recovery. I just do it in a healthy manner. But it's like I joined the Army, and it was the first sense of stability I ever had in my life. But the thing that I always remember, was that I did not know how to relate to people. Like, I loved the military. I loved the structure it gave me. I loved the purpose it gave me. But, like, I also wasn't a drinker. Like, most of the people in my unit, you get done work, they drink, stay up till 5 a.m. Me, I was working out. How do I get ahead? How do I do this? Like, that's why I volunteered to go to Ranger School, like, in the dead of summer. Like, no one does that, But, unfortunately or fortunately, like we always say, like, God has a plan. Like, I ended up getting injured. I was jumping out of an airplane, and I hit the side of the airplane, and it messed up my chest, messed up my legs, led to, like, multiple surgeries, and then I got sent home, and I got sent right back to Philly with a pension, insurance, and I went right back to what I was doing prior to joining the military, which was hanging out with everybody who doesn't come out till the sun goes down and then stays up for a few days, and everything revolved around their life as criminal behavior. But I always, I attribute, like, my relationships there. Like, I had a lot of people who were, like, they were career criminals, and they would tell me, like, Mike, you're too smart for this. Like, go do something, and that always stuck with me. And I remember, like, I was at the Veterans Hospital for, like, my 5th or 6th treatment stay. And I remember a nurse had said to me, like, what do you want to do? And I said, I'd like to be an attorney. And she said, well, you're not that smart, so you might want to pick a different job. So, like a good drug addict, I went and got my bachelor's and got into law school. And I did go back and I put that letter under her desk. The thing,
fuck you, lady.
Yeah.
Yep.
The thing was, during this time, though, is I was never introduced to AA, NA, or anything else. When I look back, I did a lot of stuff that was in there, but I also was on Suboxone that whole time, which, like, I attribute to, once it was time for me to get sober, I knew there was another life, right? Like, so those 4 years, unfortunately, they didn't do, like, what you should do. Being as a therapist, like, if you're on MAT, like, probably helps to be in therapy and work through the problems of why you need this medication.
You're on MAT still.
Yeah. So, for me, that didn't happen. So the end of my first year in law school, I was like, I'm not doing that great. I could do better. I mean, I was doing fine, but in my head, that's what I thought. So I thought smoking crack would help me study better.
Like, spoken like a true addict.
Yeah. I can tell you, for anyone wondering, it doesn't help you study better. In fact, it got me invited off of the campus. And I went back to treatment again. And, this time I ended up switching what I was going to do, because I found during this time, like, I was working in the Veterans Law Clinic. And I really loved working with my fellow veterans, but I liked the one-on-one. So I was like, I'm going to switch to social work. I switched to social work, went through, like, I was about 1.5 years through. It's a 2-year program. I had another surgery. At this point, I've had about, like, 16 surgeries for my injuries in the Army. This time, it wasn't crack that would help me study better. It was heroin.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently, the university had a rule against heroin on campus. And I say that to people because that was my argument when they caught me. I said, it doesn't say in the rule book anything about heroin.
I can picture you arguing that.
I very
really
much
can picture you arguing that.
I very much led with that argument. And, the good thing at this time, though, is I actually had private insurance, because the university I went to had told the VA that we don't count your coverage as coverage, it's subpar. So they forced the VA to buy me a private insurance plan, which this time, like, I went into treatment, and I remember I went into Malvern. I was there for 30 days. I left. I literally got high that day. But the one thing I remember them telling me was, like, hey, if you don't remember anything at all, there's an issue, pick up the phone and call someone. So I remember I called them the next day, and I was like, listen, I need to come back. They're like, well, we don't know if we'll have a bed. I said, that's not my fucking problem. I'll be there tomorrow morning. And I just remember going into treatment the next morning and well, I don't remember it. I remember waking up the next day with like a Wall Street Journal on my face. Have no idea how I got there or why I was reading about the Wall Street Journal. But I just remember like I had a sense of like, I'm done. This is it. I'm just going to follow what they say. Like, I'm done. Like, getting high did not work, you know? And the thing, like, I think that's messed up with treatment, right? As a clinician now who runs treatment, like on that first day, I had been, the VA had been prescribing me morphine 3 times a day, as well as 30 milligrams of Valium, you know, and I did that for 5-6 years. And I tell people like that benzo detox, I'll take a month of heroin withdrawal over one day. But, you know, at the end of the day, they did the like, hey, you have to be off in 7 days. And now I've learned like a true benzo detox is like 6 months.
I was gonna say 7 days to get off a benzo. Are you kidding? That is awful. My body reacted so lousy to that. Sick, disgusted. I would rather detox from dope.
Yeah, no,
absolutely.
It was horrible. It was like I was like outside walking perimeter, like I was back in the military in the rain, and nobody like even came out and got me. And you know, it still was the best thing that happened. My process was what I needed, right? And like I am grateful in a way, but I do see now in working with clients like that's a huge obstacle to overcome for somebody. And unfortunately, a lot of treatment, maybe insurance drives it too, or they do, you know, they don't get the time they need to really get stable. And, you know, it is a battle, but I just remember like I did that. And then I went to this new place that opened, Ambrosia, and my insurance policy had unlimited days because it was a university plan. I ended up staying, so I went to treatment in November. I was back in December. Then I went to Ambrosia until April.
Is this when we met then?
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah.
I remember this. I was like, I don't know any dude who has been in treatment as long as you. Yeah. I remember that. I'm like, that you know, because now it's just a microwave fix. It's 28 days. You know, that's what they consider treatment. You know, back in the day, you know, it was the 90 days, you know, was sort of like that pinnacle of thing. But I was like, this guy has been in treatment forever. And I was like, you were a career treatment guy for a while there. How old were you when you went into their service in the Army?
I just turned 19.
And how old were you when you said, fuck it, I'm just going to do Ranger School and just become one of the crazies?
I was probably 20, 21, not even, it was maybe a year and a half in.
And then at what age, was it during school that you hit the plane?
No, it was I came home after school. So I got injured while I was at school in the last phase. So I was already there for like 50 out of 67 days. Came home, and then we were training everyone. They were like starting to train up because everything with 9/11 was like starting to ramp up. I was at Fort Bragg, so like they're always the first to go anywhere. And then, you know, like I say, I wasn't happy at the time. I was not happy whatsoever because like this was my life. But at the end of the day, like I wouldn't be where I'm at and I wouldn't be in the position I am if I didn't have those experiences back then.
So like from like 2000, so back in like 2001, like is when the spiral sort of started?
No, it would have been about, I got out in 03.
03. When that all went down. 03. So, and it wasn't until like 2014? What's your...
December 2nd, 2014 is when I went into treatment.
Right on. That's a long time. That's a long spiral in hell.
Yeah.
It's a lot of years. I mean, I know because I spent many of those as well. But like, you know, to go from somebody who was, you know, you're street smart and you knew how to play the system and play people, but you never really, you know, messed with any substances or yourself, and then all of a sudden your whole world is thrown into a different like tailspin, you know, to come out of that, like what was the pinnacle of that? What was that? You know, I know there's many aha moments, but what was the real thing that said to you, Mike, get the fuck together?
Well, the first moment was when I was in with my cardiologist, and like and when I talked to other providers, like I presented at the Doctors of Addiction Medicine conference, and I said, listen, sometimes just being upfront with the individual, like I will never forget my cardiologist saying to me, Mike, I think if you stop doing cocaine, you won't have these problems. It was like fucking mind blowing. Like to me, it was like, I never thought of that because I blamed everything on the military and everything that happened before that. And like my heart problems did start from the injuries. Like it wasn't they weren't drug induced, but like at this point it's 3 years later, and like I don't think doing meth and smoking crack are good for your heart rhythm, you know. But like that was a first moment where I really was like, maybe there is an issue with what I'm doing. That one always sticks out to me. And the other big ones are like when career criminals are telling you, like, I had a drug dealer tell me, Mike, you need to get your shit together. Like, you're not doing well. And I'm like, the guy who's profiting off of me is telling me I need to get my shit together is a big sign.
Oh, hell yeah. I mean, and it's funny. We sit there and we can laugh about it. And I think, you know, people don't understand, like, you know, like when you are in those clutches like that and you know, the grips and, you know, you don't think the drugs have anything to do with it. It's all the other outside factors that have to do with it. So we laugh about it, but like we didn't really understand that those factors were what were, you know, weren't killing us. It was the drugs that we were putting, you know, were making us feel like we were like invincible to those things, you know. And
it's everything but.
Oh, absolutely.
Everything but.
Absolutely. You know, and it's a long time. I mean, it's a long time to sort of like, you know, put all your life on hold or to throw it into a total different direction that you thought it may have gone, or, you know, especially with Ranger School, stuff like that. You know, that's a big step in life. That's not just like, okay, I went through basic training and I did my, you know, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. You know, you're making a commitment. You know, and then your life was sort of changed by that. And
my commitment was going to be the military. I loved the military. It was probably the best experience in my life.
You still active with the vets? Doing things with the vets?
Yeah. I still am. Last March, I got asked to testify in front of Congress about the lack of mental health standards and access to care within the the VA system. So,
and we talked about this and before this started, but you know, we talk about addiction, we talk about the drugs, you know, the crack, the wah wah wah. You know, we have all those in our. You know, we could just conjure those up and laugh. We don't talk about the mental health. You know, we go to treatment, and treatment nowadays is all about treating the addiction. You know, there's not a lot of dual diagnosis going on out there. You know, but you realize that there was some mental health going on with yourself. And what did you do about that?
Yeah, so I mean, look, the big thing, and I do this when I talk, right? In the military, they've studied this, and I forget the number, but it's a high percentage of men join the military because they, one, have high ACEs scores, and two, they're looking for somewhere to belong. It doesn't correlate to the female population. I don't know why. I know they've studied it, but to your point, like, you know, the people I grew up around were not like mentally stable, right? Like they weren't, I mean, they did the best they could, you know, but like there was definitely issues. And then after being in the military, like the reason I was on so much Valium was like I had such a severe anxiety disorder, like I wasn't even able to drive, you know. So, you know, they put you on those meds, and, you know, like you're numbed out from everything. Like they work, they're great. The problem is that they can work too well, right? And and it's the other piece, right? Like, which I say about the VA was like, they just gave me a prescription. There was no like, hey, why don't we do some therapy about why you have anxiety or why you have these issues? Like, it just was totally bypassed. And like, for me, it's like why society is where it is. Like, if you don't like your husband, there's a pill for that. If you don't like this, there's a pill for that. That's exactly how we've gotten the epidemic that we're in, is that there's a pill for everything, and let's not do any work. You know, we'll just take a pill and it magically goes away. The thing is, it doesn't fucking go away.
Oh, you want to get off of heroin? Oh, there's strips for that. There's a pill for that. And then that keeps you going, but they don't treat the underlying aspect, which is the mental health that got us to shooting shit into our necks and our arms and to, you know, searching the gutters for what we have to search or whatever. And people think of it as just, oh, that person, oh, that person's a junkie. You know, that person's a meth. They use all the stigma they could use against it, but they don't realize that there's something that started somewhere earlier in life that was a domino effect that led to that downfall. And that's the mental health part of it. And they're not treating for that unless, and in my opinion, unless there's really good insurance out there.
I think even then, it's, you know, it's dependent on where you go, right? A lot of places are opened up by people who are in recovery, and unfortunately, like, it's great that they exist, but some of the downfall is like they just apply their recovery and what they did to their program. And it doesn't work that way. We're all individualized, and there's more to it. You know, going back to what you said about the strips, right? Like I credit being on Suboxone for 4 years and getting through college and getting into law school. You know, like it showed me that I could live another way. I just always throw in like, I wish someone would have been like, hey, let's do some therapy along with this, you know, and look, if I needed to be on it and stay on it, that's fine. That's just anyone who needs to, like whatever you need to do to have a productive life, like fucking roll with it. Mm-hmm. But I didn't like that I didn't have the option to, hey, we could work through these, you know, any med you get for the most part, like 80% of the people who are on meds could get off of meds if they would do the work with it. Unfortunately, it's more like they stay on the meds for life and it's their solution. You know, meds are a temporary fix. There's 20% that they need to be on meds, right? Like they'll need it to function for the rest of their life.
Absolutely.
But we have it inverted, right?
Yep. And don't get me wrong, I believe in using medication, especially MAT, especially when it's done the right way. You know, because as people with substance use disorder, that, you know, we know how to abuse whatever is meant for us, even if it's prescribed. And that's how a lot of people get to where we're at. But I believe it helps so many people. But I believe you need to integrate that mental health therapy with it to find out, you know, peel the layers back, find out why you're where you are, and then wean yourself off of that and then put yourself into a healthy life. Or put yourself into something that, you know, you understand, or that you're not just using as a scapegoat of something more, you know. And, you know, I see a lot of that happen, you know. And I, you know, listen, for me, like I did that Vivitrol back in the day. You know, our Mary Therese sent me for Vivitrol. I had to drive to fucking media and spend $125 back in 2015 to have some dude shoot me with a huge ass needle in my ass to be sore and I couldn't sit down for 3 days to like take away all that craving, all that was going on in my head. And it was worth it for sure. But would I want to live on Vivitrol the rest of my life and get that shot in the ass, you know? Hell no. I mean, yes, it's evolved since then, but I wouldn't want to know why. Why do I need that shot every month? You know? And that's what I had to work on. You know, I had to work on the why part of it and, you know, discover that, you know what, I'm really fucked up. And that's why, you know?
Yeah. No one Googles fun shit to do and ends up in treatment or an AA meeting, right?
Exactly. So you actually turned that more so just into like finding out about yourself. You turned into like making it a mission to help others and not just within, because you have experience in other addiction areas as well, not just the substance use. Like you have it with eating disorders.
Yep.
Your familiarity there. I think people forget about that too. Like that is an addiction. That is, you know, stuff that people go to treatment for, that, you know, and need recovery for. What did you do? You turned that into sort of like your mission in life, Mike.
So what had happened was I initially in my career as being a therapist, I kept running into these people that would have an eating disorder, right? It's usually anorexia or bulimia, which the eating disorder therapist will freak. We won't call it an addiction, but like
and after I said that, I bit my tongue, but I was like, fuck it. It
doesn't matter. It's whatever works for the person. Exactly. The one that looks most like an addiction though is binge eating disorder. But the other two, they have other mental health relying. But the what I had found was all these people coming in, and they'd be like, have an eating disorder and either heroin or alcohol, and I'd say, hey, you know, could we get you somewhere that would do both at the same time? And they say, sure. And then they'd run down the list of every place they've been to that says they did it. And they're like, I go here and I just binge and purge the whole time. And then I go there and I do heroin the whole time. So I really just took the opportunity to dive in. I hired someone to train me on eating disorders, learn as much as I could. And then one of my first places of employment, I asked if I could start an IOP that would work with eating disorders and substance use concurrently, because there was a huge gap for these individuals in getting care. And, you know, at the end of the day, what I just found is clinicians or people, they stick with what's comfortable. And a lot of them don't want to work with both because they know one or they know the other. And it all just came down to taking an effort to fucking learn. Mm-hmm. and put it together, find the similarities, and find how to help someone navigate through there, right? Like one of my long-standing clients came to me. She was an alcoholic and severely bulimic, and I still see her. She's been sober 5 years and free from her eating disorder for 4 years. And she's just like, I just like checking in with you every month. But like being able to walk with someone and navigate both of those at the same time instead of it being disjointed, like, yeah, it's fucking work. But anything good is work. Absolutely. You know, it doesn't happen easily.
Absolutely. And it's crazy. It's crazy. Did you ever, first of all, you spent many years in a spiral. You know, and how many years was that? From 2001 to
2003 to about 14. Like I said, I had that good 4 years where I was on the Suboxone program, right. and so at the end of the day, it wasn't a lot, but I definitely packed a lot into a short amount of time.
You know, I think that's another thing too. People are like, oh, you know, I was only out there, I only did this for 2 or 3 years. I'm like, that's a long time. Yeah. It's a long part of your life, you know. And I until I started to work myself and work things, I didn't realize that, you know, for over 30 years of my life, I was in addiction. You know what I mean? And like I threw a lot of that away, like, you know, and I forgot that like I may have grown like in several ways, but I never really grew in like other ways, like maturity wise sometimes. You know, I stopped maturing at the age I started to really start using heavy, you know? Yeah. and I you know, and I it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of work on yourself. And, you know, to work on yourself is one thing, but to work on yourself and then to work on others is another thing. How long have you been doing it? How long have you been in doing what you're doing? And what the hell are you doing? What all are you doing right now?
All right, so I'll give you a summary.
Dude, yeah, I got time here. Yeah, give me what's up.
So I had started that program, and then I was working clinically. I went to Live and Grin, and I was there. And during COVID, I was actually getting ready to leave and start a private practice. And I got approached. They had a first responders program, and they said, we'd really like you to take this over. And I said, if I could turn it into a veterans program, I'll stay. So they said, absolutely. So I went to setting out and building a veterans program that would meet our unique needs, coordinate with the VA. And in 6 months, I had gotten 200 referrals from the VAs for veterans, because they had closed down. The VA had closed down completely and wasn't providing any care. So they were outsourcing everything. So another company after that, Banyan Treatment Centers, had heard about me, and they had called and asked for some help. Like, hey, we're starting to take veterans. Can you give us, you know, help, just talk with us. And like me being a clinician, I didn't understand like the business aspect of this. So, of course, I'm like, yeah, this is what you need to do. And then 2 weeks later, they called back and were like, this is fucking nuts. Could you just come work for us? And I figured, you know what? Like, they have a national footprint. I can serve more veterans. At the time, they had 16 facilities. So I went and joined them, and I spent the next 4.5 years implementing veterans programming, building programming. I opened for Banyan the first veterans eating disorder program. So I built that out for them, got that up and running.
Awesome.
And then
that's really great. Where was it?
It was in Langhorne.
That's awesome. Oh, so local.
Yeah, it was local. We were one of the first, and I mean, we were getting veterans from California, Mississippi, all over the country. Unfortunately, then all the eating disorder companies found out about that, and then they opened up. So it got a little smaller, and then that program ran for a few years. But in the meantime, I actually started in helping with their expansion efforts. So I went to Alaska, and I found out that there was no treatment for veterans or military in the state of Alaska. So I convinced them to give me the money, and I opened the first treatment center up in Alaska. So I did there, I did Colorado, and then at the end of 4.5 years, I just kind of made a decision. Well, if we're being honest, venture capital came in and does what fucking venture capital does. And I'm like, yeah, I'm out of here. You know, I was grateful for the experience. When it was the one owner, like the guy went above and beyond. It would be Christmas time, and he'd be like, hey, Mike, we don't have a lot of people in beds. I'm paying people. Just go out and scholarship as many veterans as that need treatment. Like, because, you know, there's complexity. The VA has to approve authorizations. They have to approve who gets care. And, you know, at this time, they had really started locking down how many people they would let get treatment, because they said they could do it all. which is a whole nother bullshit issue. But I'm just like, when it was that one owner, it was nice. Like, we were able to do everything and anything for our clients. But then once it came in and got corporate, it just started changing. So then I left.
As everything does when corporate, corporate fucks shit up.
Yes,
it
they
really
do.
does.
They don't realize, like, yeah, you can increase your margin by cutting all your staff, but then guess what? You're going to spend $10 million marketing to find people that don't know you suck. So you're going to pay one way or the other. Why don't you just provide good care and have a lower cost of getting people in because they know you provide good care?
Absolutely.
But I don't sit behind a screen and look at beans. So
I don't think I would want to do that.
yeah.
You know?
So then I spent. So then I left and I formed a consulting group, and I helped open another treatment facility in Alaska. I've done 2 more. I have 1 more opening.
So you were traveling to Alaska for band?
I was traveling back and forth for about 3 years, once a month, 1 week, but in the beginning I was
on
gone
their
like
dime,
3
and then
weeks.
You became a consultant on your own.
Yeah.
And went back and opened up a center there.
Yeah.
So you opened up a center. One of the first centers?
One of the first ones for veterans and military. And then another company went up and they bought an entire block, and they had called me just to talk. And I said, I'll leave and come work with you. So we went and developed a block for treatment up there. And then another company approached me and I helped them. And I have 1 more that I'm helping right now. So altogether in the state of Alaska, I'll have 4 programs that I opened. When I went there was probably like 3, 4, you know, and it was a very interesting place.
That's awesome. That's really great. And Alaska is a dense population of people that have addiction too. There's a very large population.
Yeah, no, it's a very much needed resource up there. It's very much needed.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because you wouldn't even think about the vet. You're focused on vets. Do you think you would be as focused on vets, you know, if it wasn't for the Army and stuff, or is that where your focus comes from because of what you've experienced yourself personally?
Yeah. I just remember when I originally, like, I didn't even know about the VA. Mm-hmm. It was my family who, like, they said, hey, we think you need to get help. You can go to the VA. I'm like, what the fuck is the VA? And I remember calling them and saying I need help. And they're like, well, we'll have a bed in 4 months for you. And I just remember how soul crushing that was. And it took me another year or so to get in. And I remember at one point, the one time I went there was a woman in admissions, and I learned later, she's like, oh, I don't think you've had it rough enough. There's a shelter at the end of the road. Go stay there for a week and then we'll let you in. The only reason was they didn't have a bed open, right? It was her own logic. And then the other experience I had at the VA was, so the VA does not actually have a detox at any VA facility.
No VA facility at all has a detox.
They do not.
So you've got to go somewhere else to detox if you
So there's 2 things you can do is, 1, end up on their med-surg floor, and that's either alcohol or benzos. The rest of it, you don't end up there. 2, you get checked into their acute psychiatric floor, which is like, I remember the one time I went and they said, well, we don't know when we'll have a bed, but if you want a faster bedtime, you'll check into our locked unit. And then once a bed opens, we'll let you know. I was on that fucking unit for 3 weeks. And it's locked. You don't go outside, and you're thrown in with people that truly need to be there. Like, there was a woman who would walk around, drop her pants, and just pee on the floor. There was some other schizophrenics that clients, they would just walk back and forth all day pacing. And you're like, man, I just need a detox. Like, how is this the resource you have? And secondly, you don't take anyone out. I'm like, you have a schizophrenic who lives outside. He's been here for 3 months, and you don't bring him outside because you don't have enough staff. Like, it literally says in the law they're supposed to be taken out. And this was the Coatesville VA, you know, and they spent like $100,000 to put a fence up for us to go outside. They never took people outside. So to answer your question, that's what drives me is like, no veterans should be experiencing that level of bullshit when they ask for help. They shouldn't. There shouldn't be we'll get you in 4 months. Now what they do is, because they have community care, they have to get you services within 30 days. Now they just won't tell you They'll just say, oh, we'll call you. And that way they don't get held to a bed date and don't have to refer you to the community. So the VA for the last 15 years has spent increasing numbers on suicide prevention. I can save them money. Just give people treatment when they ask for it. That would be the most simple thing to do. And their excuse always is oh, it's too expensive. I found out first off, your budget is the second largest in the country. It's $488 billion this year, and it only serves 9 million veterans.
It's too expensive to treat people's mental health.
It's too expensive to send them to the community, to send them out to get treatment, so they have to wait for a VA bed. But the reality is, what I found out is the VA, if you went in, they charge $5,000 a day if you have insurance to get residential treatment. The regular people in the community, it's about $1,200. And they're saying it's too expensive to send them to the community. The reality is they could give us all platinum insurance, no copay, no deductible, and it would be way cheaper than the $488 billion budget that they have that was this year. It'll be $500 billion next year.
Our system's fucked up.
Yeah.
Our systems are really fucked up. Not just all of them. Every one of them attributes to it. They're all broken somehow. They're all, let's face it, it's not helping people anymore. It's about putting the money in the pockets more so than anything.
Well, yeah, I had the director of the Philadelphia VA, the director of psychiatry. He told me, he said, Mike, I can't send people to your facility because I won't be able to justify my budget next year. I'm like, first off, it's not your money. This money is allocated for veterans. It's not allocated for the VA jobs program. It's supposed to treat us.
When I hear comments like that, it makes me think that, I just don't have enough money to put in our pockets next year or to give us a raise for our salaries for the work we deal with, stuff like that. That's what I hear. You know what I mean? I don't hear oh, what are we going to do for our treatment? We had the money, use it now. Treat it now, see how successful it is, and more money will come in.
Yeah.
You know, I know how you do it because, I similarly do what I do out there, but on different levels and, fighting different battles, but all the same battle and trying to get to the same place. What do you do, man, to keep the sanity? You have a lot, you have your hands in a lot and you have a lot going on and, you're married and you have your daughter.
No, son.
Yeah. Did I say
2.5?
Shit, son.
Yeah, it's all right.
Holy shit. See, well, hey, your son. You're 2.5.
Yeah.
Oh my God, now I feel even more dumb. So, okay, you're your daughter, 2.5-year-old daughter. Yeah, I know, Mike, real well. So you have that going on in life. So what do you do for you guys? What do you do for you to escape all this? Because you deal with a lot of shit, Mike. You deal with a lot of shit stuff.
So one for me, right? I stay consistent with AA. For me at this point in my life, I go to 2 meetings a week. There's 2 meetings. There's a veterans meeting I go to and then a regular.
See, you make up for the one I don't go to.
Yes, I do. So that's a big piece of it. Another thing, that I have found helpful is I do participate in psilocybin ceremonies several times. I was going pretty much once a quarter. I find that that's been life changing, and that was a conversation with my sponsor. And he's like, listen, what are you doing it for? And I told him, he's like, okay, that's the right purpose. Go ahead. And I'm glad I had that and I had that check, but I explained to people. So, it was so impactful, right? At one point we were told we probably weren't going to be able to, or we weren't sure we were going to be able to have a kid. On that Thanksgiving, I turned off life support on my dad, and that was my Thanksgiving. And then here we were a year later, and my son was about to be born. So I went in and I said, what I really want to work on is what does my dad's life mean to me? How's it going to impact me as a father? And what are some things I need to, work on myself? And I went in and I did this ceremony. I spent 2 days there and I left with this new, just at peace and comfort with I got to see my dad for who he was, see him as a person, see what things he did that I probably shouldn't do. And it was in a very non-judgmental way. But that's had a huge impact on my life, is being able to go and do that and explore and be willing to look in. I went probably 2 months ago, and it was really like, what am I going to do with the next part of my life? And what I got out of the ceremony was like, I've been serving all these other communities. I've done facilities, Alaska, Colorado, Oklahoma, New Mexico, Tennessee, started another one in Virginia. And I just said, like, I need to serve my own community. Like, aside from my practice, which I can say after this, it's like, what am I doing? And I spent 2 days getting clarity. And I knew of a treatment center that had been for sale for a few years, and it's 10 minutes from my house. So I just said, that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to open an adolescent program, because then I can really, like, and I'll learn something new, learn how to work with adolescents, and I can have an impact on the next generation. So I put an offer in last Friday. It got accepted, and we're going to close in 30 days. So
that's crazy. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
That's an accomplishment above all accomplishments, what people do in their recovery or with their lives. I mean, you've taken it to the next level. That's sick. And we're going to talk about that. But the psilocybin, how long? It's been over 2 years now that you've been doing it?
A little over. There's a little over 2 years.
And it's really important. I'm glad that you touched on it, that you were doing it for a purpose of doing it. It's like any other thing that's prescribed for you out there. If you do it what it's prescribed for and the way it's supposed to be done, it's not going to be harmful to you.
No.
And if it is, then you stop doing it, And I love to hear this, because there are such alternative methods out there now in this crazy world of recovery, and it's recovery your way. And I see a lot of people that are in the rooms that are in AA and NA doing some alternative recovery, and they're so afraid to talk about it because of, everybody, So I'm really glad that you did talk about it. It gives other people hope that they too have an opportunity to be able to utilize that, to release some of the things and to discover some things about life and themselves that they need to do, because I hear it really helps. I haven't done it, but I
know, Guy.
I'm sure you do, and we have to talk about that, because
But I think, like, to your point, like, look, I would share it in the rooms. I really don't give a fuck what people think, but what I am mindful of is I don't share it in the rooms, just because my experience was the first time I did it. Like, immediately my thought was like, I could do this every weekend. Luckily I had a support network, like, to remind me to come back to reality. So I'm mindful, because I don't, I think you need to have some time grounded in sobriety to go and do that. Because it is earth shattering, it is jarring, it will shake you up. And if you're like 6 months sober and you're going to go eat, take mushrooms, like, you don't even know why you're being sober at that point usually. Now you're going to throw in, like, let's look at all my deep, dark traumas and have them in front of my face. So, like, that's why I'm mindful of who I share it with, is just like, I think you need to have some period of stability before you go down that path.
I agree. And that's why I'm sort of laughing here to myself, because, I run a workforce program, and I ran the recovery homes, and all these, as I call them, young bucks that get out, and in their first, month or 3 months of their recovery in their entitlement phase, they all think that they want to get medical cards for cannabis, because they want to smoke cannabis because it's going to be good for their, for their recovery. And I'm like, you don't even know why you're smoking it. You don't even know what you're doing. You're, you just want to get high is what you want to do.
Yep.
And I hear them. They're like, well, we can do that. It's right. You know what? No. Why don't you, work on yourself for 5 years and then go get your medical card?
Yeah.
And if you want to smoke cannabis, then you smoke cannabis, So, and it's important to have that message as well, Mike. And I'm glad that you send that message out, that it is important that your brain is barely developed at all after doing drugs all that time and getting fucked up all those years, that you're trying to regain and you're trying to relearn and you're trying to learn things for the first time, that until you get a grip on that, don't go and fuck it up,
Yeah. And listen, everyone has their own path. It's just been my professional and personal belief is like, you should have some sense of stability before you dive into that. And I know there's people, they go and do ibogaine, come back and feel fine. But the thing is, like, you have to keep doing work. Like, people a lot of times are just looking for that silver bullet. Let me go to
cure.
Yeah, let me go to South America and I'll take ayahuasca for 5 days and come back and everything will be better. No, that's why you're here, because you thought taking something would make everything better. you can't get out of it the same way. So it's like whenever I work with people who want to do that, I'm like, that's cool. Get someone to work with before you go, and then get someone who's going to work with you when you come back, because the most important piece with the psychedelics is after the ceremony, you have the neuroplasticity to integrate the things that you saw or the things you've experienced. And that's the important piece. And if you just come home and do nothing, like, great, you went on a fucking trip. That's all you did.
Right.
You paid someone a lot of money to go on a trip.
You got to put the work in. You got to put the work in like anything in life. But, when you're working on yourself, it's even harder.
Yeah.
And you got to remember to put that work in. So, and you put the work in on yourself over these years. You're a therapist. What are the letters behind your name? What do you got?
LCSW.
All right. So you're a licensed social worker.
Yeah.
It's amazing because I wouldn't even want to get to a social work point. First of all, it takes a special person. You talked about this when we were going to IOP. This is what you were going to school for. This is what you wanted to do. You were set on it. And, you've turned it not just into like somebody that was going to a 9-to-5 job. You turned it into a life. You turned it into your life mission, your lifestyle, your life goal. Now you have this treatment center that you just got a bid accepted on. You put your bid in. It was accepted. You're going to be opening a treatment center for adolescents.
Yeah.
Like, did you ever expect to experience this in your life? Like in your wildest dreams, this is where you'd be with your recovery?
No, I mean, I didn't. I just followed what was in front of me and just keep doing what's put in front of me. And the thing is, you got to do the work, right? Like through this whole process after that ceremony, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but like God's telling me, or it was more of like what I saw, the universe is telling me that this is what I should be doing. So I spent all this, I was working through Memorial Day weekend. I was up till 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, learning how to use Excel, learning how to build everything, put it together. And then I was sending it out, and I literally put in the LOI. And the guy's like, all right, cool. Now I need the $100,000. And I was like, I don't know how the fuck I'm going to do this. And 30 minutes later, someone that I had shared the project with called and said, hey, are you still doing that project? They said, yeah. And they said, go, we'll fund everything. Go ahead, put it down. We'll pay for it. I mean, they're going to pay, like, obviously there's going to be an arrangement, but
absolutely, yeah, but
I didn't know how it was going to work out. I just knew the work was in front of me, and that's what I was going to fucking do.
Universe is pretty cool sometimes, isn't it? Universe
You
is
pay
really
attention.
Cool. Absolutely. But also, it's what you put out, too.
Yeah.
What you put out will come back to you. I've learned that, too. Before, I just expected that everything I was deserved. Of course. The fucking universe owes me. I'm not doing shit. I'm going to sit here and it owes me, and it made my life a living hell. The minute that I realized that, like, what I put out there, I'm going to get back, like, it sort of changed the way I looked at things, and the way I think about things, and, I approach things. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it's even, so like I also, as my side job, had my business partner, her and I worked at Living Grin together, and she's a psych NP. And I said to her, like, we need to do something where, like, what we were seeing, and this is where nonprofits get on my fucking last nerve. The only reason they're a nonprofit is it's an excuse to pay people shit. Not all of them, but a lot of them are. And what I found was, like, first off, they get reimbursed the same money as a for-profit organization, plus they qualified for grant money. And I had a CEO with a bachelor's degree making $300,000 a year, and I had almost licensed clinicians he wanted to pay $42,000, right? And it's like they were just burning these poor people out. And me and my partner are like, let's start a practice. We're going to pay everybody more than everything else. We're going to give them the autonomy that they want to practice the way they want. We'll market based on their strengths. We're going to let people do what they do well. And that was 5 years ago. We just, in the beginning of May, had our 5-year anniversary. We now have 5 psychiatric nurse practitioners, another 2 coming on, and over 20 therapists. And we're in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, and Colorado. But that all came from, like, we wanted to create something. And, like, most of our clinicians have been with us since the beginning, 4 or 5 years.
That is amazing. And this is a virtual?
It's all virtual.
All virtual.
Yeah. Virtual, and take insurance. We were one of the first groups to take insurance. Like, we said, listen, people are paying a lot of money. Let's get them in. And therapists will complain, oh, it's not. The rates are pretty close to what people self-pay. It's all bullshit. You just don't want to do the extra work to figure out how to get paid or deal with an insurance company.
Paperwork and stuff like that.
Yeah. It's just I don't know. But serving the community in that way too is like, and the people we work for. Like, we have clinicians that are just like, I love working here. You guys give me the autonomy to do what I want. You know, they work what they want to see. And by paying them more, they can see less clients and provide better care and pay attention. Like, I remember for me as a clinician, I reached a point where I found my limit, right? I was at like client 27 for the week. And it was this long-term client whose son had got, had leukemia, was in recovery, remission, and then it developed again. And she had told me, like, so-and-so has leukemia, and she was crying. And in my head, I'm like, what's the fucking problem? Like, I knew, like, that's not the type of person I am. That's not the clinician. And I remember, like, I don't want my clinicians to feel that way.
Right.
I don't want them getting to the point where it's like, well, what's the problem when some poor mother's crying in front of you? You know, so that was like our ethos behind what we did, was like, we want to make sure our people are paid well so they don't reach that point.
There's a point of resentment, a point of bitterness to do it. And it's funny you mentioned about taking money, you know, and the people who are paid in nonprofits and stuff. And, you know, I ran my nonprofit for the last 10 years now, and I don't get a salary. And the reason that I don't is because the minute I start doing that, I think it's going to take away from the reason I started doing it. Because I was always self-supporting myself in the jobs I had and the gig work I do, and I'm very happy with stuff like that, you know. Because I don't want to have people looking at like, oh, you're doing it for that money. Because there are a lot of them out there that are doing it for that dollar sign. I don't think anybody that runs a nonprofit should be paid six figures. Hell no. Hell no. I think they should get, you know, the base salary of what they should be able to get for their age range and where they're at. But when I start seeing people that are making these six figures and even up at like $250,000 for running certain nonprofits, I'm like, what's wrong with this system?
Yeah.
What the fuck is wrong with this system?
Just a nice excuse. That's all it is. It is really a business. It's just like the VA. People don't realize, like, it's a business. The VA is a government-run business. That's all it is. And they have an incentive to keep everybody within their ecosystem, which is sad because they were created to serve veterans. It's like the Coatesville VA kicked off the grant per diems that were on their program, which is essentially recovery homes for veterans, because they didn't want those people causing problems. I'm like, your campus is literally built for those people, but you don't like them interfering with your work. So I'm sure we could talk for an hour.
As you said that, I'm like, you know what? That's like an entire topic that I could go on a tangent about too. I'll bite my lip. I talked to a lot of, I have a friend that was a vet, and he was part of their system. You know, they're pumping him with pills, and then he became the cannabis advocate. Mike Whiter, great guy, amazing guy. But I think about this and I hear about how crooked that system is and how fucked up that system is. And I think to myself, well, if that system's fucked up, then, you know, we can't get that together. We're all in trouble.
Yeah.
You know? We're all in trouble for sure.
I would go crash their VA Healthcare Executive Summit in Washington, and it would blew my mind every year. You'd be in these seminars, and they would, in the middle of it, they would go, oh, we got to pause. And a pharma rep would come up and literally do a pharma commercial for 10 minutes, run through their drug. And then, so you were like a captive audience, right? Like, they strategically did that. And then the lunches were all lunches for executives by Pfizer, by Moderna. Like, they even, during COVID, or the year after COVID, or 2 years after, at their summit, they had a whole thing by Moderna about fighting vaccine disinformation within the VA, which, like, listen, that's a whole political issue. I think everybody should do whatever's right for them. But it's just really telling that this government organization is so inundated by big pharma. Like, when you read their manual on treating substance use, the first 5 interventions are drugs. The last one's therapy or rehab. How did we get to this point?
It's whatever they're peddling out there to fix it. And it's not fixing it. It's just sort of, you know, well, once again, we know better than anybody that the treatment, I mean, the resolution isn't in the overall cure. It's in the continuous treatment. You know, that's where it's going to be big for them. And that's why they do it. They don't want that under therapy. That's why it's the last there, because that could help cure you.
Yeah, it will get you off. There's no money in the solution, right?
Exactly.
Like the homeless problem in LA. There's no money in the solution.
No, let's keep them out there. It's sort of like, you know, wicked. And, you know, and that leads me to this, you know, because an hour goes by so quick with me sometimes, especially when I have great conversation. But, back in the day, you said, before you went into the Army, you were sort of just like that guy out there boosting. How can you, get what you have, get what they have, and how could you, one up somebody or take what it is? And, if you had the opportunity to go back to that teenage Mike and tell him some words of wisdom, what would you tell him at this stage?
I think the biggest thing is that, failing is not a problem, right? Like, I've learned that along this way. Like, you don't learn shit when you succeed. You learn it when you fail, right? Like, and that was a huge thing I didn't know when I was younger. And I looked at everything like, I have to get it right the first time. And if I don't, then I'm a failure, and I've learned, like, now, like, failure is just part of life. Like, if I'm not failing, I'm fucking not trying hard enough.
Absolutely. And I love that. And it's so true too, because I think maybe it's a lot of people who are, addicts. And I know that word's such a stigma word, but that are afflicted with addiction and, substance use disorder, that perfection was something that, was in our minds for some reason ingrained, that there was no failure,
Yep.
that if you failed, then you just might as well just end it all, one of those sort of things. So it's really cool that you said that. And I appreciate that. So if people want to reach out and they need help, how can they find you, Mike?
There's multiple ways. You can go to the website. It's guidetowellnesspa.com.
A guide to
Guide.
Guide to
wellnesspa.com.
I'm gonna fuck that up.
Someone fucking stole the guide to wellness, so I had to add PA.
So guide to wellnesspa.com. That's you. That's what you do. That's your.
They can reach out on there. They can reach out on. I think my Instagram's like urban82220 or somewhere. You can find me on Facebook. Send me a message, like whatever I can help out with. And I think, I was thinking about it when you asked me that question. It's funny. I was talking with a CEO about helping them expand. And they're like, how did you figure out, like, a normal process could be 6 to 12 months. A lot of times I was getting treatment centers open in under 6 months. He's like, well, how did you figure out how to do all this? I was like, I was a heroin addict. Like, I learned everything there. I learned where the shortcuts are. And I'm saying all this in a way that, like, if you're struggling with addiction, right? Like, nobody's broken. We just have skill sets that we're using improperly. All the shit that I apply to my regular life is the same shit I did when I got high. I had to figure out how to get the money to get what I needed. Now it's more like, how do I get what I need to get this open and serve more people, right? It's just reflipping the things that I have, and everyone has it in them. They all have it. It's just using it in an improper way. Like, to close on your point, I found being an asshole in recovery can be very beneficial, long as I use it in an appropriate manner, right? Like, I was trying to help you, which is why I was an asshole. But I find when I use it in a way that's not helpful, things don't go well, and I'm using an attribute in an improper way.
I like that, and that is a perfect way to end this, because I couldn't have summed that up any better. I get it, and I'm glad you were an asshole. I really am, because it really helped me back then, and it's helping so many people now. I'm pretty proud of that work that you're doing, and I'd like to see where you're going with it. Would invite you back once you get the center open, once you get the treatment center open up there. I'd like to invite you back, talk about what's been going on then. But in the meantime, thank you so much. Thanks for everything. Thanks for showing up today. Thanks for just being you, man.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for having me.
Got it.
I'll invite you up as well.
I would love to be there. I'd like to check it out. So,
right.
And everybody else out there, thanks so much for joining us today. Remember, whatever it is you stand for, be a voice. This is Brick Carpet on USALA Media. Have a great rest of your day.